Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Long Walk Talks. My name is David Hensley. I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions, and I am joined today by my two co-hosts, Stan Wilson Lee.
Hey, how are you?
Chris Wilson Barnes.
Present.
And today we are going to continue our new Roaring Twenties discussion as we continue ever forward towards the year 2020.
Apparently time's a straight line, who knows?
Yeah, linear, depending on who you ask.
Who's Lanier?
Lanier?
I'm
Bob
sorry?
Lanier? The basketball player?
Who's Lanier?
You said Lanier.
Oh my God. Congratulations, you made it a whole 30 seconds before derailing it. Fantastic.
You got two levels of dumb on that one.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, for today's discussion, we are going to swerve from movies and television into music, and we're going to discuss, that was the sad, that Chris and Stan just tried to high-five and missed completely.
I made a legitimate attempt. He did not.
That was the saddest
He
thing I've
high-fived
ever
in
seen.
bad faith.
So we're going to be discussing music of the last 20 years, 2000 through 2019, specifically our top 5 favorite albums and our top 5 favorite songs.
Oh,
now,
my God.
like the rest of the lists leading up to the new Roaring Twenties, all of these picks are entirely subjective. If you want an aggregate list of best songs and best albums of the last 20 years, I don't know, call Rolling Stone.
There have been plenty because they've been looking for filler content too.
Yeah, exactly. So, Stan, we're going to start with albums.
Okay.
And then after our albums, we're going to talk about songs. So why don't you start us off? What is your number 5 favorite album of the last 20 years?
Again, I just want to reiterate the subjectivity of these lists, especially in my case. These are the 5 that influenced and impacted me the most, you know, so it's like there's going to be a lot of disagreement from a ton of people. My number 5, or as I ranked at number 5, Collapse Into Now, REM, their last record before they retired, and One Word, the single from the record, Uberlin, is enough to qualify it as one of the great records, because that's one of the great songs, which and it's not on my list, but it is a great song for this particular era of time. It was released in 2011, I believe, and it was just a great culmination. And I could have also tied it with their previous record, Accelerator, which was just a great return to form for the band itself. And I guess I have to put this out here. REM is my favorite all-time band, so that would color a lot of off conversation. So, but just so you know, the 2 records of Accelerator and Collapse Into Now, the REM as a comeback band, it totally solidified their place in the pantheon of great performers, great writers, great bands as a whole. So yeah.
All right, excellent. Chris, I know you had a hard time with both of these lists.
So let me tell you why this is bullshit.
Okay.
No,
Tell
I'm
me.
not. I'm not really mad. But the problem I had inherently is the problem I always have with music is I don't quantify it based on anything other than what I feel like listening to at any given moment. There is an absurd amount of variety to the things I like, from someone looking at this and going, "Why do you like this shit?" to, "Of course, this is a classic." It literally counts on what I feel at that second. And so this like these lists, especially down to a 5 count, is in no way a comprehensive look at what I like.
Well, I've really thought about making this a 10 list like we have with all the others, but that we would have been here all day.
It would only make the problem worse. But
And I only have a finite amount of time.
and to Stan's credit, like what he was saying is funny. Is like he said, like, I have REM's album on this list, but not this single on the other list. It's like that's actually almost 100% true of my list. Like,
Right.
There's no bleed over because there's a difference between albums I like listening to all together, and then there's like just a song I just want to pop in every once in a while.
That just goes bam.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
it may not even be connected to.
Oh, does yours bleed
Spoiler
over?
alert, there's a lot of bleed over.
That makes-
All but one of my singles come from albums that are on my albums list.
I can see that working too, because sometimes, you just go, I want to listen to this song, and then you're like, I want to finish out this album again. Yeah, and that happens. So mine's gonna be varied, but like I think the bulk of my list is actually from, I said, like the early 2000s, because that was my end of high school, post high school time, when it was like, I feel like that's like the most
The
formative
classic
time.
angst period where
Not even-
music is
Not even just angst
formative
period, but
part.
it's like where you're really discovering yourself through what you like to listen
absolutely that's what I mean by angst.
to. Yeah,
Is that
and like
finding yourself.
And like we were saying off mic, is like that's the time when I was still buying a lot of CDs whole before I could like preview or just listen to stuff and be like, okay, I dig that more or less. But when I would get albums and listen to it all the way through and then make a collective judgment, and I'll start with, the one that sneaks onto the list by I think the slimmest margin, but technically counts, and I'm so happy. It is Daft Punk's Discovery. The one it's the album with Celebrate One More Time, Superheroes, not Human After All. God, I forgot the track list, but it's the one that really broke them through in America. You're right, I should look it up. But it was what
Is that
introduced
the one
me.
with the party?
Which one?
The party all the time.
Celebrate, yeah.
That celebrate.
Celebrate One More Time, I think. It's the one with the anime music video, the throwback one. That got me into Daft Punk, and that got me listening to their previous albums. And I was
I
like,
didn't know that was that old.
oh yeah, it was late 2000 or early or sometime in 2000 when they released it, like right there on that year. And because I remember having it senior year and listening to it nonstop, and it's such a good album. And I can't recommend it because the way they do it, and they got even better about it later, was they took their time with their songs, and you can tell that especially with like their previous album, Alive, where it's like they will build and build for minutes to get to what they want to, and it works. And it has a way of being repetitive sometimes without being annoying. It flows into itself, I think. And I mean, well, I think it's been proven since they're still around.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, there is what I'm going to consider an honorable mention just because it was vying for a place on this list all throughout the many iterations of it I've done since I told these guys I wanted to do this episode. And that's going to be the Red Album by Weezer. Officially just an untitled Weezer album, but known as the Red Album. And to most Weezer fans, the last good album that they released. And
I'm sure that line stops for different people at different places.
it does. I held on for a long time trying to love Weezer again, but every album that came out after that just killed my hopes and dreams a little bit more. But also vying for one of the song slots was the song Heart Songs. Can I say the word songs any more times? But my actual number 5 is Recovery by Eminem from 2010. Honestly, it was a toss-up between many of the Eminem albums that have come out in the last 20 years, of which there have been quite a few. He's been very prolific. Pretty much anything other than Relapse could have made it onto this list, but Recovery is a fantastic album. Stan, I have a feeling the song Love the Way You Lie is going to end up on your song list, but I think there's an even better single on there than that, and we'll get to it when we get to songs. But my number 5 personal pick, best album in the last 20 years, Recovery, Eminem.
Nice.
There it is.
Stan, number 4?
Number 4, to continue the Eminem track, I'm going to give it to Marshall Mathers LP, the first Marshall Mathers LP for Eminem, simply because he wrote Stan. Real Some Shady's on it, Stan's on it, of course. It's just some of the best crafted wordplay that's ever been put on record.
I had to double check you to make sure that album actually did come out in the last 20 years. But yeah, May 23rd, 2000.
2000, yep. And I had to do the same research because I'm like, okay, I know the first record was so how soon after did the first Marshall Mathers come after the Slim Shady record? Yeah, it was very early in 2000. And the thing is, I came to Eminem really, really late, per se. You know, I was working at the Art Institute in the mid 90s, late 90s, up until the early 2000s before I moved here, and I had this buddy who was a DJ, hip hop artist, and I was talking to him about what's the best stuff because I was just getting into Def Jux, you know, the LP stuff, Cannibal Ox stuff, the Definitive Jux label, and
I don't know if anything that you just said is English.
It is completely English, and yeah, and I don't have any Run the Jewels on my list. You'll be surprised about that, but
which are, I mean, albums or singles you should check out. They do amazing stuff.
I have all the records. I think they're the three best records but they're not on my list. I don't know.
They've crept into my playlist. And
they're brilliant, and their singles are fucking phenomenal.
Hell yeah.
But and I'm a huge LP fan, but none of that stuff made it on my list. But with the first Marshall Mathers, and simply because of how once I discovered Eminem by doing Stan as a karaoke piece. That was the first time I really sat and. Okay.
Did you do the song at karaoke before you actually had heard it?
I did.
That's insane.
I did. And it was one of those things where you're.
Hey Stan, your name's Stan.
It's a contest. You know, it's like we're gonna give you a song to do. You know, you're not going to know. You may know it or you may not know it, and you got to go do it. And so I was given Stan. I was like, well, fuck yeah, whatever. And from that moment on, though, because I was able to see the craftsmanship of those lyrics, man, and the power of that song, and the pathos of that piece. My name notwithstanding, that was the least part of it that I got. And from that moment on, I said, I need to check him out more. I knew he was from Detroit, you know, but he's no Kid Rock, you know. That was my thing.
Oh, the irony.
And because at that time, you know, everybody in my group, we were, you know, our shows were full of Kid Rock songs and stuff like that. But from that moment on, once I discovered Eminem for real, and I think he's one of the best writers since Lennon and McCartney.
He covers such a great range. Like, he goes from deadly serious to super goofy, and he pulls it off every time.
All of it is the structure, his phraseology, and he's a crafty use of chorus. Mm-hmm. You know, he has choruses in his songs. In his flows, in his raps, and it's like... And he has verses, and he has choruses, and just the structure, and that's when we get to Love the Way You Lie, that'll even be more.
And
clear.
he samples stuff so masterfully. Going back to Stan, that song is the reason I bought Dido's album, White Flags, I think it's called. It's a really good album on its own.
Again, and because of that's where I learned about Dr. Dre. I started researching Dr. Dre and NWA, and it's Eminem's fault why I'm a huge hip-hop fan now, you know, and want to discover everything, you know. Because of him, I got into Public Enemy. I got into Ice-T. Well, I was into Ice-T already, so it's like, okay, nobody can be better than Ice-T.
And then you moved to the South and it became Sweet Tea.
Shut up. But Eminem proved the craftsmanship of the work and for me. And so, yeah, Marshall Mathers first.
And now Stan is a shorthand term for like idolizing something, isn't
it?
Or
an obsessive fan. I think it actually made it into the dictionary.
And like there's a song I recently found that I like called "Number One Fan" by a group by an artist called Muna, and part of the chorus is something like as in they use it like I stan you, as in like basically I idolize you.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Chris, number 4.
Number 4, this one again, early on, but an early 2000s one for me. But this one was I was never a huge fan of Ben Folds 5, or at least I never listened to a lot of their stuff. But I was intrigued enough, I guess, because I saw the single, I heard the single, and saw the video for his first solo work, that I ended up buying "Rockin' the Suburbs" by Ben Folds, and that's what made it here on the list. It's just a really good. It's hard to say, like, variety of songs.
I'm sorry, what record?
"Rockin' the Suburbs"
By
Ben Folds. It was his first solo. After, sorry, go ahead.
Is that the album that includes the song Brick?
No,
Oh, okay.
this is after that. This was like
okay.
his first album after that.
Gotcha.
It has such an interesting variety of, like, just fun and weird and
Again, crafty.
and very he's
Crafty
very
musician, crafty songwriter.
very much so. It also had the unfortunate distinction of being released on September 11th, 2001,
Oof.
which is
So what you're saying is Ben Folds Const 9/11?
no
Did he fold?
podcast over.
Before I make any more jokes.
But I mean, if nothing else, I would start at the single "Rockin' the Suburbs," which is basically about how he's basically white suburban middle class, and that's about as good as he'll be. And then he's also got really interesting songs, like a weird, interesting love song called "Zach and Sarah," which is kind of like a weird character study. He's got like there's a song called "Still Fighting It" and "The Luckiest." Both are very, I wouldn't say melancholy, but very very emotional. Very like, "Still Fighting It" is about a father singing to his son about how growing up is weird, basically. And "The Luckiest" is basically a love song. I can't remember if it's to a particular person or just about life, about how he's been very fortunate to have had happen. That was terrible.
Take 2.
He feels he's the luckiest for how his life has gone. Basically,
You have just listened to the 40th take.
He's giving thanks. And then there's a song called not intentionally, but "The Ascent of Stan." I guess it was because it was an easy one to rhyme, but it's about a guy growing up, and the chorus is, "Once you wanted revolution, now you're the institution. How's it feel to be the man? It's no fun to be the man." It's basically that. It's basically a song about youthful
Idealism?
youthful idealism versus getting older.
Mm-hmm. And selling out.
Yeah. And one of my favorite songs of all time, called "Annie Waits," which is about a woman waiting for someone who may or may not show up. And basically, like, the idea is like, she's been waiting for this person for way too long. Will he show up this time? Who knows? But she still seems to want to wait for him.
Is it Godot?
In a sense, it kind of is.
Yeah.
It's just like she's waiting for this someone who is going to help complete her, but just does not seem to be coming anytime soon.
Aw.
It's a fun, interesting listen from start to finish, and it also coincides with my first honorable mention, which it came out about the same time, and also had an issue with September 11th because they had to change their title of their album from "Bleed American" to just being just their name, just being eponymous. It's Jimmy Eat World's, I think, first big album, and again, it's a great album from start to finish.
Oh man, now that I'm thinking about it, Futures could have ended up on this list too.
Yeah.
Damn it.
I thought that would be the honorable mention to pair with that one, since they both had September 11th problems.
Yeah.
Interesting. You have honorable mentions. I just have ties. So
Yeah.
These were other ones that I just thought, I was like, I could list these, but I feel stronger about those.
Yeah, the Red Album from Weezer was the only honorable mention I had, just because it kept making it onto the list and then getting kicked off again and back on. And finally, when I settled on this, it just ended up off.
Because they're touring. They're
I know.
They're doing the three band, and you're struggling with it, aren't you?
You know what? I'll stick to 2008 and previous Weezer. Because before the Red album, Make Believe, from 2005, I think, could have easily made it onto this list too. But my number 4, I have the movie Scott Pilgrim versus the World to thank, because they provided a song that's supposed to be by the band Clash at Demon Head in the film, but the actual band that did it was Metric.
Oh yes, that's what I was thinking.
And through Scott Pilgrim, I got into them, started listening to their back catalog.
And you got
albums.
me into them.
Yes.
You introduced me to them, and I'm a huge fan of Metric now.
And that's how 2009's Fantasies by Metric ended up on my list in the number 4 spot. And I can say that how I settled on this list is primarily just how many times I've listened to these albums over the last 20 years, which this one is a lot. It's a solid album beginning to end. There are no skippable songs on it to me. I'll just put it on and let it play.
Again, really good songwriting, or at least craftsmanship of the songs. It's like Old Blondie to me. Metric is
Old Blondie.
Old Blondie, and a lot of garbage.
A lot
of garbage influence stuff. Garbage.
Shirley
the
Manson's
band.
garbage.
Yes,
Yeah,
Shirley Manson's garbage. Butch Vig's garbage. But
That's Stan always
Metric
going through Shirley Manson's garbage.
Metric is a really interesting band, and really great performance stuff to them. I like them a lot.
Nice. All right, Stan, number 3.
I was talking about ties. I don't know if that even. I was talking about ties, and this is my first set. It's the 2 records that really, really solidified Americana, or what I used to call insurgent country, of the modern stuff. It would be Close Ties by Rodney Crowell, and a record that came out previous to that, Southeastern by Jason Isbell. Again, Rodney Crowell is a songwriter from the early 70s. He's part of the Cash House because he was married to Rosanne Cash. Great voice, beautiful lyrics, writes about pain and heartache, and also can do the Johnny Cash style combination of God and redemption into the pain songs, and it's like, and Jason Isbell is formerly of Drive-By Truckers, and his career has been much more fruitful as apart from them, and as part of his own stuff and of the 400 unit. And he's also married to one of his band members, Amanda Shires, who plays on this record. And again, it's Southeastern, and it's actually named after a tool and die shop that his dad worked at. Has nothing to do with the fact that he's from Alabama and it's the southeastern states and the feel he has about the southeastern states. No, it's about, his dad worked at this place. And it's a record about relationships with family and heartaches and breakups and getting sober. And Close Ties will be talked about again in my singles, so I'll let it for that, because that'd probably be a pretty extensive discussion. And but I just want to throw it out there. If you know anything about Jason Isbell and Rodney Crowell, somebody to look out for. David and I discovered this guy in Nashville this past weekend, Jake Loban. I have yet to hear his original stuff, but he is also a singer-songwriter from Nashville. But what he was doing with his band, again, a great fiddler and band, great bassist, great bassist, and his guitar player was pretty fabulous. Great band, and but he's mainly a solo artist. Again, Jake Loban, check him out. I highly recommend him. He great personality, likes his whiskey, and is just fabulous performer. Great performer.
Yeah, after our trip to Nashville, I started following him on Instagram, and he's at the Johnny Cash Kitchen and Saloon every weekend. I think it's 11 to 2.
And because of him, I think we fell in love with the Johnny Cash Kitchen and Saloon.
Oh, I will definitely be back.
It was awesome.
All right, Chris, number 3.
You guys went on a trip?
Oh, just Chris, you're number 3.
My number 3. Are you ready for a pick me up? Because that is what's coming your way.
Is it finally going to be Weird Al?
Oh no,
Oh, sorry.
spoilers,
I'm waiting for Weird Al.
motherfucker. No, it is not. He's ruined. I'm out of here. God,
All right, well, my number 3.
shut up. No, you're getting a fucking pick me up. It is.
Is that the band? Pick me up?
Your
No.
spirits are going to be lifted, you son of a bitch.
They are, whether you like it or not, because my next pick.
Is it Mama Got Ran Over by a Reindeer? What?
That's not a 2000s release.
I'm just going to mute his channel real quick.
There's no helping it. He'll pick up on other mics or sit in my lap. I don't know. No, my next album is the debut from Andrew WK. I Get Wet.
Nice.
It is absolutely, as with pretty much all of Andrew WK's music, just nonstop. And it's an album that really spoke to me because it is full of just stuff designed to get you going. From It's Time to Party, the first single, Party Hard, Ready to Die, Take It Off, She Is Beautiful, which might be the most aggressive love song I've ever heard. and Fun Night, and the eponymous title, I Get Wet. It's just, all of these songs are just, when you need a pick me up, and like 18 years later, still just absolutely drive into you. I can't tell you how many times I still will just like listen to Ready to Die or Party Hard just for whatever reason, just to feel up a bit more up than I need to. It's absolutely one of the best, and I've kept listening to his stuff ever since because it is absolutely what you need, because it's aggressive, and it's always positive too, and that's something when you hear him talk, he always strives to keep going with. It's just up and positive, and try and keep you up.
Because he's coming straight from a point of, because he had to find something to resolve his depression, and he said the only way I can fight this is everything I do has to be about positive aggressive positiveness, if you want to say, and
Positiveness?
aggressive positivity. Is that better?
Yes.
And honestly, I should just make this a tie between that and his next album after that, The Wolf, because it's just as good, if not better.
He's a wonderful performer. He's a great performance artist because he's that's where he started out is in stage work and performance art, and he's a comedian and stuff. So it's like a lot of stuff is right out of his performance art, and really wonderful performer.
100%.
That's a nice add to that list.
And my honorable mention is one. It's an album I love, but it's like I can't put it above any of the ones I'm actually listing. I found this artist online just randomly via one of their songs, and for a while it's like all I could hear was just like it was like an EP that they put out online of their early stuff, until they finally released an album, I think in 2013, something around that time. It's the artist is Mystery Skulls, and the album is Forever. It's really good. It's like they got some really, and you hear a lot of the early stuff that he fine tuned, and a lot of the new stuff that he put in, like Magic, and fuck. No, but I would. The artist is Mystery Skulls. Look up their album Forever and any of their extra stuff. They put out a second album, and they have a ton of earlier stuff floating around. Really interesting, moody. It's it's a listen. It's kind of like the opposite of Andrew WK, where it's just kind of like it's intense but mellow at the same time. Very driving.
Very nice.
Dave?
Well, my number 3 could be literally any album from Panic at the Disco, but in terms of which one I have listened to the most since getting into them, I'm going to go with 2008's Pretty Odd. But again, that's just because I've probably listened to that album more than any of their others. Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die, Death of a Bachelor, Pray for the Wicked. Any one of them could have easily ended up in this number 3 spot. I'm a huge Panic at the Disco
another band that
nerd.
You brought to me. And
They are, yeah. You really turned me on to them.
That's why I'm still mad at Brandon Flowers for doing that stupid song with Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Brendan Urie.
They might be the same person, though.
Yeah, Brendan Urie. Yeah. Stan?
Oh, wait, to number 2?
Yeah, number 2.
Well, my number 2 could very well be my number 1, and this is probably the record that everybody hates that I have on this list. Am I on? I don't hear myself anymore. But
I was only joking about muting your channel.
I think I might be muted.
Help, he's being repressed.
But I think this is where I got the most flack because for some reason, I think David might be the only one. I think Chris likes it too, but how affected we are by this record. My number 2, which could also be my number 1, but we've saved number 1 for somebody else. American Idiot by Green Day. Probably the record that hit me the hardest as an example of what rock and roll, what pop music is supposed to be. And just the issues the band takes on. I mean, it's a rock opera, and they never marketed it as such, but it's definitely a rock opera, and then they turned it into a rock opera.
No, I think it was explicitly advertised.
Was it?
Yeah, as being a rock opera. I mean, if you look
I know
at
it
the
was a concept album.
Yeah, it's definitely a concept album. But if you look at the track breakdown and the story progression of it, it is.
It is set, yeah, because there's a whole song that's 3 movements and everything. So yeah,
and there's the 3 movement song, and then there's a 5 movement song.
Yeah, and it's
epic.
If anything, it's the best concept record of the last, well, since Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche. And American Idiot to me, and I ended up seeing a version of the stage show at Actors Theater, and again, really great use of the music, great craftsmanship on, and I'm talking about the record and the writing of the record. Again, every song on it structurally sound,
solid, yeah,
really solid. Again, the craftsmanship of the songwriting, and then when he does go into the straight up operatic stuff, the songs with different movements and different parts, just the changes, the subtlety of the changes to make sure, okay, this is the third part, this is the second part, this is the first part, and his I'm saying his in the sense of Billy Joe Armstrong, because I'm thinking he wrote most of the record, lyric wise, just his vision of characters, his characterizations on the record is just phenomenal. And of course, the song American Idiot, brilliant hit at American politics, and the way the normal person just takes on, oh, they're different, we can't handle them. It's like very, very, really. And it's not stuff that hits you over the head with a 2x4 either. He's singing from his viewpoint, and it's really strong writing. And then, again, another record about recovering from substance abuse, or being in recovery, or being in the midst of substance abuse, because I think he may have been struggling with his own use at the time. And so the characters that are involved in the show, because that's what it is just, he's a great playwright. What I got from that record, and really, really great stuff. Fantastic record. Anybody that says they sold out with that record is nuts. It's totally in their style. It's totally in their wheelhouse, and it's epic for them. But it is not a sellout record in any way because they're still saying "fuck you" to the man. But they ended up selling 1 billion copies and writing a Broadway show from it. So obviously somebody hooked onto it. So that what I'm saying by it being one of the great pop records of all time, it definitely is.
Yeah, no such thing as selling out. Chris, you're number 2.
I will say before I move on, it is a good album, but God, the one thing that soured it for me was it was hideously overplayed for the long. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I couldn't escape it.
yeah. American Idiot was everywhere. The song, the single American Idiot
And
was
21
everywhere.
Guns.
And 21 Guns.
But 21 Guns was from the next
Thanks.
record.
Yeah, 21
was it?
Guns was 21st
Sorry.
Century Breakdown.
Sorry,
we're
that
looking,
was-
but Wake Me Up When September Ends definitely was.
Fantastic.
Yes. Okay. This is just a PSA to everybody listening to this podcast and everybody who continues to share this meme. It has been literally 15 years since this album came out.
Yeah.
You can stop posting "Somebody Wake Up Billy Joe Armstrong" now at the end of on October 1st. Those memes can die. It has been 15 years.
I didn't realize people were still doing it.
People still do it October 1st every year. Somebody wake up Billy Joe Armstrong. Go fuck yourself. Chris, what's your number 2?
He's one of the most woke people in the world. That's what I'm trying to say.
I just wanted to give it a minute to let all that sink in. So my number 2, again, mine aren't really numerical by any choice, but my number 2 is it's hard to describe what. No, I know what hooked me. It was the first single off of the album, and I fell in love with it. It's Watermelon Chicken and Grits by Nappy Roots.
Huh?
Oh.
I heard "Aw Nah" for the first time, and I was just like, "That's awesome." And I bought the album, and I listened to that inside and out, from Hustler, Slums. To me, who has never smoked a joint in his life, listening to "Blowing Trees." I was like, I love that song. I do not care about smoking marijuana at all. It's just a really good song. I know you do.
I was high last night.
It was so good. I did not.
Myself.
Okay. I did not keep up with them after that album as much, but they've had a lot of good singles afterward too. But I can't recommend this album enough because it's a good representation of Southern rap and country rap, and they really own that, and they really they really have a fun time with it, and I just can't recommend it enough. And my honorable mention to go alongside it is they were sporadic with their releases, but this was one that was just when it came out, it kind of snuck up on me because I didn't realize it had come out.
I'm sorry, Chris. Are they part of the ATL? Are they?
I don't think so.
Or are they even like the Texas stuff? And
I think they're Georgia. I mean, they're somewhere around Georgia, I think. Or no, they might be like Alabama, like somewhere in between, like Alabama. They might be Alabama.
because they're not part of the Outcast
No.
posse, are they?
No, they're from Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville, Kentucky.
That's right. Because of the song "Kentucky Mud." Yeah, that's where they're based out of. But my honorable mention is, it's like, again, not quite enough in there to put it in the top 5, but one of the ones I absolutely fell in love with was Hefty Fine by the Bloodhound Gang. Not the least of which for the single Foxtrot Uniform Charlie Kilo, and Untis. But I think I absolutely love their big song on there for me is Ralph Wiggum, which is it is entirely composed of lines from The Simpsons said by Ralph Wiggum, set to a rock beat.
Is this the same record that Discovery Channel or the
No, that was Hooray for Boobies.
which was before
It was
from 99.
99.
well, technically, it released in America in 2000. So I almost thought about counting it, but yeah, it released in like England earlier. That's the one that was like the most on the edge.
It's crazy that I granted some of these songs from 1999, 1998 are still fresh for me and still some of my favorite stuff. So
True.
the idea that it's 20 years out,
That does
I
remind
don't
me.
think them as oldies or as unimportant.
Yeah. That does remind me. I am to R.I.P. Rip Taylor, who was in one of the last tracks of
R.I.P..
Hooray for Boobies.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, that's my that's the fourth entry, Nappy Roots.
Very nice.
Very nice.
So the first four inclusions on this list that I've got are pretty much all to me tied to a specific time of my life. Recovery and Fantasies are pretty much, well, they'll always be connected to moving to and living in LA. Pretty Odd, it will always be connected to my senior year at Winthrop University. And my number 2 is the same as Stan's. It's American Idiot by Green Day, which will be forever tied to my freshman year of college at Winthrop University. And I cannot tell you how many times that album got played throughout that whole year of college, beginning to end. To the point where when we get to our singles list, it's the only album on here I didn't pick a single from, just because there were too many choices. For as simple of a song as it is to close out the album, What's Her Name is one of the saddest songs I think ever written. Homecoming, I think it's the 9-minute 5-part epic, is brilliant. I love the whole thing beginning to end, and to me, it will always take me back to 2004.
It's a gorgeous record. It's gorgeous. It's fascinating. It's just power on all sides, and I'm talking even the power in their ballads. And it's just strong. It's just every song is heartfelt, and creates a feeling. And if you have a heart, and you don't get a feeling from it, you're dead.
And their follow-up to this, 5 years later, 2009's 21st Century Breakdown, almost as good, not as solid of an album, a couple of weak entries, but overall pretty decent follow-up to it, another sort of concept album, rock opera. But of the two, American Idiot is by and far the best.
Oh my God.
Excuse me. Stan, let's move into your number 1 album of the last 20 years.
Again, I can include American Idiot here, but I'm going to give it to your number 5, Recovery, Eminem. I don't think a record has hit me and made me feel great about the state of American pop music more than Recovery as that. And even including, like we have different singles from it, but every song on it, wonderful. Craftsmanship of the writing. Again, it was definitely. I know he's had a couple records since then, but to me, it's the ultimate example of Eminem's brilliance in songwriting. It totally solidified his place in my pantheon as one of the great songwriters of all time. Up there with Jagger and Richards, up there with Lennon and McCartney, up there with Chris Christopherson, and I'm saying it because he writes raps with flows, but he's a great chorus writer. He can write a chorus, and the idea of being a songwriter and being a craftsmanship of song. Recovery is a brilliant, ultimate example of that writing, and literally no sound recorded on record has impacted me as much as that record did, from start to finish. stylization, whether he's doing a straight up, misogynist rap, or if he's doing a straight up love song, if he's doing an anti-bullying song, every song, and he doesn't go into character that much. Most of the songs are straight up pieces, where he's just commenting as a songwriter, and he's not commenting as a character, as like Slim Shady. Even though Slim Shady appears, he's not necessarily all that on that record. So brilliant record. Will probably always flip-flop with American Idiot for me for the next 40 years. I think it's one of the great records of all time. Can I just, before we go to Chris's number one,
I'm sorry, there's no time.
I don't have any Outkast listed, because this is one of the reasons why I asked about Nappy Roots and where they're from and stuff, because over this last 20 years, I've become a big fan of the Atlanta sound, especially, and Outkast being the major representation of that. And I don't have any Outkast on my list in any of the sections, but I just want to throw them out there as probably making some of the best records
100%.
of all fucking time. The reason why they're not on my list is mainly because these records they would release a record after, like, say, Recovery came out, and Recovery's already out. So but even though they were breaking up at the time, Love Below / Speakerbox, some of the great songs are from that record, so check it out. Of course, Stankonia, all of their stuff. Check out Outkast if you don't know them.
Very nice. All right, Chris, your number one album.
Well, thank you, Stan, for spoiling everything.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious. Oh my God.
Outkast is your number one?
No.
Oh, Weird
No.
Al Yankovic
Let's roll it back a little bit.
Now, see, that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone who knows you, and it's going to be the same with me. Anybody who knows me should know what my number one's going to be.
Yeah, but this
it's
one.
like I was talking to David the other day, Thursday. I said, I can't wait to see where Weird Al Yankovic is on your list.
Well, this one is here, and it's not. Again, I didn't numerically rank this, but this album is not just good, but important. It's Mandatory Fun, Weird Al's last album, which actually, according to reports, is his last album.
Is it really?
Yeah, he completed his obligations to, I think, Warner, who he was under contract
I know
with.
he's touring right now, so I guess it's off this record.
He is, but yeah, he stated that that's going to be his last traditional album.
Wow.
And he went out with a fucking bang, because this album was not only fantastic, it achieved some things that I don't know if anyone else ever will. One, I can't recommend it enough because the track list is great, and I'm not going to spoil anything. Just go listen. I mean, when it released in 2014, he had an 8-day blitz of a new music video every day with different people, different, across all sorts of different things. And it was just tune in to see what the next one was and get the album. And it is a blast. It is absolutely fun to listen to.
He turns 60 tomorrow, by the way.
He does, yeah. And that brings up another important point. He completely
Is a vampire?
No. Well, he looks great. He's kept himself in great shape.
Look real good.
He looks fantastic. He's just one of the nicest people to ever listen to. Because I've heard him do stuff like other podcasts and just interviews. He's just always super nice.
He's a great fan too.
Oh yeah.
He loves the people he does.
Absolutely.
He does.
100%. And he did two amazing things with his last album. One, he became one of the few artists to have a top 40 song in 4 decades. I think 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. And two, he was the first comedic artist since the 60s, I think, to top the Billboard, America's Billboard 200. Topped it. And the last person did it, I think, was one of his comedy idols. I don't know if it was Freeberg or someone of that era. I think it might have been Stan Freeberg, the last person to do it. And no one else had done it until he did it in 2014. So anyone can dismiss Al as just being like, for whatever you want to do, you want to dismiss parody as you don't think it's real. But he put in so much work over so many years. and is one of the most respected people in the business.
Yeah, he's a great performer too.
He is super
His use of
talented.
the accordion is fantastic.
His talent is unmatched, as is his desire to put food in all his songs.
Yeah.
I just love the wonderful story he tells about talking to he got a hold of Kurt Cobain
Yep.
from Nirvana, and he asked him to parody
Smells like.
"Smell Like Teen Spirit," and Kurt was like, "Yes, as long as you don't make it about food."
And Kurt Cobain was totally on it.
Absolutely.
He was thoroughly. He's like, we've made it.
Yeah, it's one of
And I
the,
think he passed right after that.
it's one of those things that ends up cementing you into pop culture fame, even if people don't know you necessarily.
It's equivalent to getting your wax figure. If Weird Al Yankovic does a song of yours, you basically got your wax
Oh
figure.
yeah, like the song "I Lost on Jeopardy." I did not know for the longest time that was a parody of a song called "I Was in Jeopardy," until I finally heard the real one day. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Very nice.
And my last honorable mention, it's technically more of a joke entry, but it's more interesting and listenable than you think. I wouldn't say go out and spend money to find it, but it's all on YouTube if you just want to go listen to it. It's a fun album. It's more fun than you think. There's more talent into it than you think, and that is the album "Be a Man" by Macho Man Randy Savage.
What?
That's a real thing. Dogs has the physical copy. I actually bought of it years ago as a birthday gift. It includes the Hulk Hogan diss track "Be a Man"
Oh my God.
and a bunch of other fun dance party tracks.
Wow. I did not know that existed.
It did, and I encourage you all to listen to it. Do it. I dare you.
There.
Wow.
Do it.
Nice.
All right. Well, just
No,
like
I'm really happy about the Weird Al.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you
know.
for talking about that. Record.
Absolutely.
yeah, just like Weird Al, it shouldn't have been a surprise to anybody who knows Chris personally. Anyone who knows me personally should see this coming. My number one pick for best album of the last 20 years is American 4: The Man Comes Around by Johnny Cash. His last album released before his death in 2003, but not his last album. There were two more American albums released by American Records, Rick Rubin, and then Out Among the Stars, which was a bunch of lost songs from the 80s when he was still
They're
with
all
Columbia
great.
Records. American 4, I don't want to sound hyperbolous when I say it's I think one of the most important records of the last 20 years. It might be the most important record of Johnny Cash's career. It's a heartbreaking album through and through, even without knowing that it was the
last.
Yeah, it was the last one while he was alive.
And most of the songs are covers, if not all of them. And it's
Most of them, yeah,
and it's still him.
and The Man Comes Around is one of the most apocalyptic
Yes.
and amazing songs of all time.
Absolutely. It's weird to hear something folksy but foreboding at the same time.
Oh yeah, I get that boom chicka boom
Yeah.
beat on top of these biblical lyrics. It's
That's why I was saying about Rodney Crowell, and he's the best since Johnny Cash, but still nobody beats Johnny Cash in the sense of bringing God into the most most pop song in the world. It's like Man Comes Around, yeah, God.
All right. Well, we spent a long time talking about albums, so let's move through our songs pretty quickly. Stan, number 5 single of the last 20 years.
Well, for me, again, this is purely subjective, but songs that affected me and made me continue to enjoy the state of pop music in general, because some of this is not, but I added, for my number 5, I added 2 songs while we were talking, so these are new, so I'm not going
We
to
have to hurry. The list is growing.
I'm not saying that these are honorary mentions. They're part of the group of stuff. But so I'll start with those first before I give you my solid number 5. We're going to go with Dancing on My Own by Robin. Some of you may know why. And that could have easily been Call Your Girlfriend, but because I went past just Call Your Girlfriend and went to look at that whole record, that's not even the best song on the record. Dancing on My Own is one of the great songs written and crafted. Whether it's a dance song or not, it doesn't matter. It's a great pop song. And but yeah, a brilliant song. That's Robin with a Y. Then All of Me by John Legend. That is 2000s, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody, I'm not sure which one of you were talking, but you were talking about, and it may have been when we were talking about Nappy Roots or whatever, but I remembered, oh shit, All of Me is one of the songs that hit me like it was hitting Chris in the sense of, just this sweet wordplay and sweet poetry of a beautiful, and then
Poetry.
How soon after All of Me, that record of John Legend did the Django soundtrack?
I have no
Were they-
idea. I'm still recovering from the idea that there's a John Legend. Of all
Wow.
of John Legend's catalog, that All of Me is what ended up on.
Well, again, All of Me is what hit me and said, okay, John Legend is cool. It's like, and then Django comes around, and him being a supervisor on that record, along with RZA, his stuff on that record.
that
is
came
great,
out
too.
after Django.
It came out after Django, so it may have been because I saw Django and heard what John Legend was, and then All of Me came. But my actual number 5 that I had written is Molotov by Jason Isbell off the last Jason Isbell 400 unit record, the Nashville Sound. Again, another great retrospective song of the Americana genre. And his tribute to his growing up, meeting a girl, making promises that maybe he shouldn't have had, or breaking promises to himself, all previous to him getting sober and everything. And so some of the greatest lyrics put together, I think. And again, Molotov, Jason Isbell, and 400 Unit, the Nashville Sound.
Very nice. Chris, what is your number 5 single from the last 20 years?
Well, it's even harder to quantify these, mostly because it's like I can't even really say this is like a top 5. This is more like, here's a few songs I think you should put.
Here's 5 songs.
Yeah, here's 5 songs that I connected to that I think you should drop into your playlist if you like them. It's just like, 'cause that's what it feels like. Some of these, it's like I don't know how I connect to these, but I do.
Yeah.
And to build on that, the first one I have is one I heard via a YouTube video, because someone set a Muppets montage to it, a Sesame Street Muppets montage to it, and that is MOP's "Annie Up." It's just a great song. It's about robbing fools.
All right.
That's basically it, and it's just a good pump up song. It's right up there with. I have 2 honorable mentions for this list, and the first one is Ludacris's "Get Back," which solely entered into my listening because of Tom Cruise and Tropic Thunder dancing as Les Grossman at the end of the film.
Yeah.
That whole bit is like that whole bit plus that song is just amazing.
That is where Ludacris came into my.
And that song is great because it's a good, you know what, get the fuck out of my face song.
And again, another song that helped Tom Cruise rejuvenate his persona, because that's a great moment.
I honestly had no idea that was Tom Cruise till the person I was watching the movie with, my friend Jay, was like, "That's Tom Cruise." Like, is it?
Yeah.
And then I looked again. It's like, oh, I see it now. What the hell? It's one of those movies where you can actually watch it and it's like, you don't know that's Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise. It's like, there's a lot of his movies, as much as I want to like them sometimes, it's just like, he's Tom Cruising it up.
Yeah, we were talking about that, Dave,
With Nicolas Cage,
Well,
Nicolas Caging it up.
A few weeks ago, we were talking about the Mission Impossible movies and how Tom Cruise just owns them, and why people hate him so much. We're not sure. I mean, sure, he's done a couple of questionable stuff, but then we talk about something like Tropic Thunder and
People
the stuff that
people-
he commits to.
People dislike Tom Cruise, I think, because they have trouble disconnecting the actor from the person. It's like when Christian Bale lost his shit and screamed at a crew member on the Terminator film, and people were like, man, Christian Bale's an asshole. We don't like him. Okay, yeah, maybe. And
But he's still a
Tom
great
Cruise
Batman.
is a fucking crazy person. I'm not friends with these people. I don't care. I know this is going to sound terrible, but I don't care about them personally, if that makes sense. I don't want it to sound cold, but I care about them as performers and the performances they give, and in that context, they're fantastic.
Yes.
Anyway, that was a tangent.
No, I get it, because it's like I think there are some movies where Tom Cruise is just kind of floating based on who he is versus he's trying. You know, and I don't mean in like a physical sense. I mean, it's like, what was that one with Cameron Diaz, Night and Day?
Oh,
That versus Tropic Thunder. It's like, that's him. Tropic Thunder is him being in a role, and that one was just Tom Cruise
that
being the
versus
leading.
Minority Report, or
Yeah.
that versus War of the Worlds, which I think is one of his great performances. But what I was
We're
gonna
talking
say-
about music.
We're talking about music, but the thing is, I just want to say that music and film for me are like in the same
Intertwined.
intertwined, very, very much so. So it's like when I say a film is rock and roll or that's punk rock performance, it's all
Yeah.
because I'm coming from that guy who goes to Ukrainian halls and VFW halls to see a band play, and or like we go to Johnny Cash Kitchen and Saloon and see Jake Loban and say, oh shit, that's totally cinematic for me, is when something like that happens. So the idea that we combine the two is not a question in my mind.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was me. So on to Dave.
All right. My number 5 is where Stan and I differ when it comes to recovery. I know yours is probably going to be Love the Way You Lie. Mine, however, is No Love, Eminem and Lil Wayne. A lot of Eminem's more serious, down-to-earth songs I find oddly inspiring, in spite of, or maybe because of their vulgarity and how straightforward they are. But in terms of getting you pumped up and kind of a fuck you song as well, No Love is that song to me.
It's a great song, and the combination of the two is a great combo.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Eminem kind of kicks his ass when his verse
Oh, yeah.
comes in.
You know,
I like Lil Wayne's verse, but as soon as Eminem comes on, Lil Wayne might as well have not even been on the song.
It's like Lil Wayne's back there. It's, oh, that's how it's done. Okay.
I really like his song about dealing with fame so far.
Yeah.
One, because I love the song it samples.
Yeah. Life's been good to me.
That was so far, yeah, it's such a good song. And on top of that, him talking about the difficulties of being who he is versus, all the fame and wealth he's achieved versus I'm still this, guy from the trailer park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And dealing with both of those conflicting feelings.
Talk about a guy who created a character
Yeah.
and is now only responded to as that character.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, dudes, there's the real Marshall Mathers. It's
Yeah.
like, and then there's Slim, and I'm not really Slim. It's like, so yeah, that idea.
All right. My number 5 was No Love, Eminem and Lil Wayne. Stan, what is your number 4?
I wanted to hear more about No Love, but
Well, just go listen to it.
yeah, I know, right? My number 4, and again, the selections are, with the exception of my number 1, these can rotate in any fashion at any time, but my number 4 is also an Eminem tune. It's Lose Yourself. In my opinion, the greatest Oscar-winning song ever.
That is high praise.
With Shallow being a close second, but not quite.
Oh, my God,
know,
I'll argue with you.
I had to say that.
Excuse
were
me,
you
I think
serious?
someone's forgetting about Muppet of a Man.
Well, Muppet of
Jermaine
Man is
Clement.
great, but I would throw It's Hard Out There for a Pimp, too, is one of the great Oscar-winning
You would.
songs. But but Lose Yourself. We talk about, like you were saying earlier about No Love, about the song that just gets you going and brings you back into a real way to deal with your universe. Lose Yourself is that sense of, here's a craftily written tune that is simply about, it's what we're talking about today, is how the music, how the sounds of the world, how the sounds of the universe affects you and are there to get you to a place that you can surpass any of your obstacles. And I think that's where our lists are for us, is that these are songs and records that make us say, okay, shit is sucking right now, but
I can do it.
I can deal with it. And I might have to just sit back and not do anything for a little bit, but with the help of the sounds of the universe that are here to help me, I'm going to be able to surpass that obstacle. And Lose Yourself, I think, especially in the terms of the movie 8 Mile that it's from, totally represented that. And again, for a song that comes basically out of nowhere and immediately grabs you. And you were talking about earlier about, like American Idiot being overplayed. Lose Yourself, of course, was probably the first hip hop song that was like on, mainstream all the time, all to play. But every time it came on, it was like, that's badass. Hell yeah. But yeah, Lose Yourself to me, the greatest Oscar winning song, and probably one of the great songs of all time.
And that just reminds me, it's easy to kind of forget, amongst all the other accolades and achievements he has, Eminem is also an Academy Award winner.
He's an Academy fucking Award winner.
Yep. All right, Chris, number 4, single.
My next one, it's an odd pick, but it's just, again, this album wasn't like 100% for me, but there were just bits that grabbed me. And a song that sticks with me to this day that I like listening to every once in a while is Sum 41's Fat Lip.
Oh, nice.
It's pop punk. It's fun. It's just the cheeky aggressiveness. It's like that one lyric's like, you don't know us at all. We love it when old people fall. It's just like, it's just people describing themselves as, we're kind of scumbags, but that's just how we are.
Very nice.
I like a lot of. I mean, I like Sum 41's other stuff, but just something about that is just a fun to it. That's just like, I pop that in every once in a while. It's like, oh yeah,
nice.
I'll go ahead and toss out my last honorable mention so I can get through the rest of the list. But it was a weird one. I remember it just came on randomly one day when we were working at the bookstore, and I fell in love with it immediately. I don't know why, but it's just something about the tone and everything I love about it. It is T-Pain's "Turn All the Lights On."
Wow.
Can't. It's like I said before. There are songs that just connected with me that I cannot describe adequately why, and that's one of them. Yeah, just there you go.
T-Pain, not 2 Chainz.
Nope, T-Pain.
T-Pain.
Yep, just turn all the lights on.
They may be the same person.
They may not be.
But just like John Mayer and Dave Matthews,
Jason Mraz are the same person.
Are the same person.
Yeah, you can't convince me otherwise. All right.
John Mraz.
All right, so I also forgot to give my honorable mention earlier, but
you were adding to your list not moments ago.
Yeah, I was. It's "Must Be the Whiskey" by Cody Jinks.
Oh my God!
Which I have Stan to thank for that one.
Thank you. I struggle not to include that on my list.
But my number 4 slot goes to "Gimme Sympathy" by Metric. It's one of my all-time favorite songs now. It's off of Fantasies, and it's one of my favorite music videos of all time. If you've never seen this video, go to YouTube, search "Gimme Sympathy" Metric, and watch it. It's brilliant.
It's a great song. It really is.
It's a great song, great video. Yeah, Stan. Number 3. Let's move right along.
Number 3 for me is another Jason Isbell song. It's from his record After Southeastern. and of course I just drew a blank. But anyway, it's the record after Southeastern, in between Southeastern and Nashville Sound. It's 24 frames. It's basically him relaying his life and seeing his life as a role, set of celluloid. You know, it's like he's seen this story cinematically, and how everything that happens in it is like watching a movie. But the movie is so real, it's real, you know. And so, but the 24 frames, like I was saying earlier, how film and music to me are intertwined, that he basically did that with this song. And great song, another great example of the Americana genre, the insurgent country genre, just songwriting in general. If you have any questions, Jason Isbell is one of the great songwriters of our time. Check him out. He's fantastic, but 24 Frames is my number 3.
Very nice. Chris, number 3?
My next one is, I think after Stankonia, Outkast let out a greatest hits album, and they included a new single on it, which I fell in love with immediately, and that's The Whole World.
Nice.
The Whole World by Outkast is a great song, and I can't recommend it enough.
Thank you for having Outkast.
Yeah, and it's one of those songs where it's just like, it's just that, it kind of encapsulates that feeling of, it's like, the whole world's kind of out to get you sometimes.
There's a great documentary about the producing team for Outkast. It's on Netflix. Check it out if you can. Of course, I'm forgetting the name of it, but
Of course you are.
but it has all these great images of the early days. It's the dungeon,
Okay.
where they recorded their first couple records, and
Very nice.
It's literally the whole Atlanta scene at that time recorded in this basement that's literally half as tall as this room, and you know it's
To be fair, this is a pretty tall room.
yes,
It's kinda tall.
but still half, you know, is probably shorter than you and David, and
Well, everyone knows that I am a giant.
except some of the listeners might not know who exactly. Chris could be 8 feet tall for they know.
He could not.
He could not. But the idea, the whole Outkast story and how they recorded all those early stuff in this place it's fantastic. Check it out if you can.
Very nice.
I'm done. Over to you, Dave.
All right. My number 3, again off of Pretty Odd by Panic at the Disco in 2008. An album that is very different from the rest of their work and very heavily inspired by the Beatles. Northern Downpour, another beautiful song along with a very interesting, well-done music video, and another one that I highly recommend you check out if you've never seen it. Northern Downpour, Panic at the Disco. Beautiful song, beautiful video. Go check it out.
They make great videos.
Yes,
they're really
do.
good filmmakers.
If you-
or whoever does their stuff.
If you've never watched their 3-part, I don't want to. Their 3-part through line for a story, told in reverse order. They're just Google Panic at the Disco 3 videos or something like that, or complete video. People out there have taken them and edited them together in the proper order, and when you listen to all 3 songs together, it tells a complete story. It's very interesting. They make wonderful music videos.
Are they as good as 30 Seconds to Mars stuff though?
I don't think I've ever seen a single 30 Seconds to Mars music video.
And it's done.
That's a hard sentence to say.
Jared Leto.
Oh, Jared Leto. Anyway, yeah, that's my number 3, Northern Downpour. Stan, moving right along, what's your number 2 single of the last 20 years?
My number 2 is pretty recent. To me, it's the song of 2018, the best song of 2018. It's Rodney Crowell's It Ain't Over Yet, which is off the Close Ties record. And I said that I was going to talk to about it more, along with the next one that I talk about. But It Ain't Over Yet features Roseanne Cash on it and John Paul White, who I'm not completely familiar with and I need to get hooked up with, but it's almost Roseanne Cash does a verse in the song, and knowing that they had been married and the Rodney Crowell's part of the Cash House. It Ain't Over Yet. It's pretty semi-autobiographical and about how he got into the business, or how he felt getting into the business, what the business did to him, how it blew up his head, and how Roseanne came in and grounded him and told him to get his head out of his ass, or out, as the lyrics go, out of his own behind, and settle down and see it for as it is. So now Rodney Crowell isn't doing the big stadiums. He's still playing places like the Bluebird in Nashville, which is basically a singer-songwriter house with like 40 seats, and you go in there and tickets are free, but you have to order them like 8 days ahead of time. But he still does. I'm got to get in my van and ride around and play. And a lot of this is because Roseanne's keeping him grounded, even though she is the daughter of the great Johnny Cash, and he was part of that sound. But when they were together, they both had substance abuse issues, and so his career kind of went up and down, up and down. He had some records that didn't do as well at all, and then finally he found a way, and this was after him and Roseanne got divorced, but he found a way and got sober. And the records he's been making since he's sober have, again, you got close ties. He's a singer-songwriter in the Chris Christopherson sense of songwriting. So if you dig anything by Chris Christopherson, Rodney Crowell is a great descendant of that style, the Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, Waylon Jennings. And he's probably even more introspective than the Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash stuff. Well, Johnny Cash got introspective later, but definitely in the Chris Christopherson sense. Dealing with one's own demons and embracing those demons in the act of exercising those demons. And It Ain't Over Yet, my song of 2018, but also more than 20 years, but definitely one of the great songs of the last 20 years.
Chris, number 2.
Oh, okay.
The soothing sound of Stan's voice put you to sleep?
It transported me away. No, that was really nice to hear, though. No, it was. That's not me mocking.
Y'all.
I'm not making fun. You're just verbose, and that's who you are.
Verbose. I have a lot of os of verbs.
You have a lot of things to say about how you feel about stuff, and that's fine.
Yes.
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 I'm not making fun, I swear.
Yes.
And Chris, what do you have to say about the things you love?
Well,
No love.
very little. I'm very internal. The end.
That doesn't work for a podcast, I hope you realize.
What? We've been recording this?
Yes.
It's on the radio?
Fuck!
Chris, what's your number 2?
Oh, God. Well, if you're going to press the issue, I suppose. No, I feel similarly about a lot of different songs. And I kind of had to distill that into one entry because it's like, I want to say not necessarily upbeat, but hopeful songs. They don't have to sound upbeat, but it helps. But it's something to, just kind of remind me to, actually get pumped up, kind of. And what helps for me is when I find a song I love, and I know internally I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to listen to this probably on loop for a while. So how many different remixes are there of it? Because I'll immediately like, I love this song. What are some variations? I want to hear what other people did to it, and I'll find various remixes that I like, and I'll listen to them all on loop for a while I still enjoy it, and I'll be like, I like this one better. And 2 songs that kind of epitomize that for me, for various different songs. One is Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars and Ronson and all those guys, because it's just a fun song. It's just fun, and it's one of those songs that gets remixed, and virtually no one can wreck it via remix. Virtually. But I found a whole different covers and different styles, and it's like, yeah, it still works. I like it, and even especially sometimes even if it's like vocalist, and it's just the beat. I like that. The other one is a song that kind of epitomizes being hopeful, even though it's kind of hard sometimes, and that is, again, I credit you, Dave, for turning me on to Panic at the Disco and High Hopes, because I found that and I was like, this is a song I've been needing to hear. Mm-hmm. It's a song, it's a song that's like, it's those feelings that I want to believe all the time, but you just can't always. And it's a song like that really puts it back into you when you really want it to. And those songs and being able to find like where people have just like endlessly remixed so I can hear a different variety of it and keep me going. And I think that's important.
Panic at the Disco.
I do object to the dramatic use of the exclamation points.
Well, they have since dropped that.
Have they?
The exclamation point was only on their first album,
Really?
A Fever You Can't Sweat Out.
Really?
They dropped the exclamation point by the time Pretty Odd came out.
So it's actually a single clause now. Panic at the Disco, as opposed to Panic
at the Disco?
at the Disco.
Yes. Yes, it's just Panic at the Disco now.
They didn't
I
try
didn't know
other.
that.
They didn't try other punctuation first.
Panic, ellipses, at the Disco.
Panic Oxford.
Panic, semicolon, at the Disco.
Panic and Terabang at the Disco.
Panic?
Panic
at the Disco.
ampersand.
Anyway, my number 2, like I mentioned before, it's one of the only ones that doesn't have a correlating album in my top 5, but it's, excuse me, All These Things That I've Done by The Killers.
Oh yes. Great
Off a
song.
pretty good but not great album. However, All These Things That I've Done, it's, in my opinion, one of the best songs of the last 20 years.
Oh yeah, I'd throw out Mr. Brightside too.
Mr. Brightside also very good, but for some reason, All These Things That I've Done just resonates with me so hard. So,
Songwriting.
yeah.
And it's I'm hard pressed not to have put any Killers on my list.
See, I like The Killers. I don't think they have made a 100% solid album ever. Like, not even the first.
Oh yeah, there's singles I could put on lists all day long, but
and that might have been
album-wise,
but I think Hot Fuss is one of the great records, and I like a lot of songs on that record.
You
and
like a
I
lot
think
of Hot Fuss?
I like love Hot Fuss. And,
What was that? No, never mind. Don't explain.
and
Don't
Mr.
explain.
Mr. Brightside, I think, is one of the best written songs and great songs of the last how many years. But I think the same reason for you, Dave, is that Hot Fuss for me was great, but I haven't been blown away by necessarily everything after that, where everything here.
They tried so hard. Like, Are We Human or Are We Dancer?
That's weird. That song.
That song is so weird. Like, so many of their singles that came out after that were just weird. Although recently I have become a big fan of The Man by The Killers.
That's a song that caught me by surprise.
Yeah, that's a really fun song.
It is.
Anyway, All These Things That I've Done by The Killers. Stan, number 1 song of the last 20 years.
Can you guess what my number 1 is?
Love the Way You Lie, Eminem and Rihanna.
It is Love the Way You Lie.
Called it.
There is not a better pop song than Love the Way You Lie. Brilliantly crafted, perfectly written, delivered wonderfully, has one of the greatest short films ever made as its video. The edit in the song is brilliant. It's seamless. Both performances by Rihanna and Eminem are flawless, and got to add Skylar Grey into that too. Her chorus is amazing, and she's probably the sole person responsible for that song, having written the chorus and bringing it to them. And of course, it went on to spawn Rihanna's "Love the Way You Lie" Part 2, which is also a great song. "Love the Way You Lie" off of Recovery, and opposite you, David, that's I think the only song I have. No, it ain't over yet. But "Love the Way You Lie" off of Recovery is one of the two songs that I have that correlates with a record that I have on the list. I can't say enough, and I have many arguments against why I have "Love the Way You Lie." It's not the best song of the last 20 years. It's the best pop song of the last 50 years to me. There is not.
Damn, that is high
better
praise.
That is.
Written,
Agree to disagree.
There's not a better written song than "Love the Way You Lie" in the sense of ethos, the sense of pathos, the sense of eros, just, everything
What
about
about D'Artagnan?
everything about the song
That's me.
is fascinating. Again, go back to and the sense of maturity of Eminem as a songwriter. Again, I called Recovery the ultimate in his record making. Love the Way You Lie is definitely the ultimate of songwriting for him, and he'll be hard pressed to write a better song than that. And I don't think he's going to try, because I do think he knows that song can't be beat. And my thing about it is that it lost to Lady Antebellum at the Grammys.
Oh God.
My God, I've heard this.
And they did the best job in dissing Lady Antebellum's win by the next act after they win, after Lady Antebellum wins Best Song, is the No Doctor. I Need a Doctor performance, when they bring back Dr. Dre back into the spotlight. Skylar's there, Rihanna's there, and M just kicks ass on that song. He doesn't do Love the Way You Lie. He does I Need a Doctor as the diss to Lady Antebellum. And it's like, people were in the audience going, how did they not let Love the Way You Lie win? It's like, because he followed it up. It's not like he stagnated with Love the Way You Lie. He followed it up with I Need a Doctor. So,
Very
Love
nice.
the Way You Lie, Eminem, Rihanna.
Well, maybe when they were voting, it was 1:15 and they were a little drunk.
Get
Maybe
out.
It's 1:15 and I'm
All right,
a
well,
little drunk.
Chris is done with his list. You wasted it on
Lady
that
Antebellum's
joke.
your number one?
You know what? Now it is.
All right, Chris,
I don't
number
even know
one
the title of
song
that stupid song.
of the last 20 years.
It's not number one, but it's a strong one for me, because it was kind of a surprise that this album. There was like no fanfare that they released this album at like the end of 2016. I happened to be looking on iTunes during Christmas, and it's like, oh, what the hell? There's a new album here, by one of my favorite groups. They're not old, they're not new, they're middle school, 8th grade like junior high. The Bloodhound Gang in 2016 dropped a new album. What is the title of it? I forgot at the top of my head what the title is.
I did too, and you gave me this album. Stand by.
I did. I was like,
It's the last record, right? Is it the last record?
yeah, it was their newest one. I texted Dave immediately as soon as I saw it on iTunes. Like, holy shit, the Bloodhound Gang released a new record.
Because they had to reform, didn't they?
No. I don't think they just been laying low
Just
for a while.
laying.
Kind of
Oh, Hard Off.
hard off. That's it. Yep. Sorry.
I had coffee in
and
my mouth that just came out of my nose.
and it's a fun album to listen to. It opens with a song called "My Dad Says That's for Pussies," and it rolls from there. A great song. I recommend it because it's hilarious. What was it? And there's the one about being awkward. I should have looked up a track list, but the one that really hit me was the one near the end, which is "We're Gonna Bring the Party to You," and it's hard to describe in terms of mood. It's like a weird declaration.
It's definitely an anthem song, I
It
would
is
say.
kind of, yeah. It is, and it's just the way it's again. The description I gave is from another song by them, and it describes them so perfectly in terms of the lyrics that they write are so smart and so juvenile at the same time. that calling them not old but new, or not old or new but middle school is perfect.
Yeah.
They do inspire my freshmonic and sophomoric sides.
Like the line from one of the lines from the song "We're Gonna Bring the Party to You" is "fucking with them 40s like Adolf Hitler." It's like, exactly. That's what makes me giggle, and I love it.
Yeah.
Because they're delivering this hard anthem style song with those lyrics in it. Hands in the air like you just jumped the border.
Oh man.
Yeah. That's what you're getting. Oh. This easily the best line. This might make you laugh even harder. This ain't your mom, not any dick gets in. That, and it's just like it hits that perfect tone of that's well crafted, that's completely immature, I'm gonna laugh about it like Stan is. That
again, Bloodhound Gang is something I got into really, really late. They've been around forever, and I never laughed at their stuff. And then finally, I guess I got old enough to say, okay, you're in my ballpark now.
It was like that with me. It's like I heard the Bad Touch, and I listened like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then years down the line, I finally was like, I'm gonna get that album and listen to it. And it's like, oh yeah, this is absolutely my ballpark.
And their live shows are brilliant.
Yeah, as many great lines as "We're Gonna Bring the Party to You" has. I'm also a big fan of "It's half past fuck it" with the caps lock.
That's like a refrain they keep shouting during the song.
It's a half past.
It's half past fuck it with the caps lock on.
That's awesome. That is a great big.
Yeah,
nice.
I can't recommend it enough.
All right. Well, again, these lists being entirely subjective. Stan thinks "Love the Way You Lie" is the best pop song of the last 50 years. This inclusion should be of no surprise to anybody. I'm going to say this is probably the most important song of the last 20 years and probably beyond. It's Johnny Cash's cover of Nine Inch Nails' "Hurt."
I agree.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't rank it number one, but that sounds right.
The difference between the two versions of the song, Johnny Cash's cover of it is so goddamn heartbreaking.
Didn't Reznor basically say it's his song now?
Yeah, essentially.
And our trip to Nashville solidified that when we went into the museum and saw that.
I've been to the Johnny Cash Museum in Nashville twice, and at the very end of the museum, right before you exit to the gift shop, there is his red leather chair that he sits in the video, and above it is a TV playing the music video for "Hurt" on a loop.
And June's in it.
Yeah, and both times that I've been, I have stopped and watched that video in its entirety, beginning to end, and cried both times.
Oh my God.
If the video for "Hurt" doesn't make you cry, you are a monster, and you need professional help. Yeah, number one song of the last 20 years and probably beyond, Johnny Cash's "Hurt" off the American Four. That's what I got.
God bless JC.
Yeah, God bless Johnny Cash. All right, well, hopefully in the next week or so, we will be coming out with another new episode, this time Halloween related, like we did with last year's The Shining. We still need to decide on a topic for that episode.
Oh, was that this month? Huh, weird.
Yeah.
Oops.
We haven't discussed this yet, but I'm hoping we can get an episode out before Halloween. If not, we'll be back in November with our continuation of the new Roaring 20s, where we discuss 2011 through 2000 and...
The movies, right?
Wait, I think it's 2010.
2010 through 2014, excuse me.
Which will be very interesting because that was a pretty groovy period.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be...
There'll be a lot of Quentin Tarantino in there, I think.
Yeah.
Ooh.
As always, thank you guys for joining me for this discussion. If you are a fan of this show and you are also a fan of wrestling, please make sure to check out our sister show, This Is a Work, hosted by David Two Dogs Hayes and Chris the Fashion Plate Barnes.
That shouldn't stick. That's a terrible idea.
There is another new WWE pay-per-view coming out, I believe, next weekend.
is it?
Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, right. It's more of a special event than it is
Yeah.
an actual.
But we'll be doing an episode covering that, so there should be a lot of new content coming out from Long Walk Talks and This Is a Work coming out soon. So thank you for listening. Please make sure to leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, and we will be back soon.
Peace.
Thank you for listening.
Peace out.